I think it's my younger family, so I'm about 3 in my first house. And in my first house, I lived with all of my family. My whole family lived in one house. So there was 8 of us lived in this house. And we lived on a farm. And in the backyard of my farm, we had a pond. It was quite far down, and it was by some stables. So we had horses and we had stables, and I think it goes along we had we had a Range Rover and an old Land Rover down there as well. And we had this pond. We had cats, and the cats kept eating all the fish. So my granddad decided to get rid of the pond. But obviously when you took all the water out, it had a big hole. And I was 3, so they didn't want me falling in this big hole. So my granddad put some plastic in there, and he filled it with sand, and he made me a sandbox. And he went and cut down some trees and made some big timber beams and put them around this big sandbox. So I had my own little sandbox. But obviously because it was so far down the garden and there was tractors everywhere and farm workers, my mum always had to come down with me and stand next to me, or some member of my family always had to come down and stand next to me so that I didn't get run over by a tractor or ploughed down by a cow or something, as Alec was drawing. But I didn't have anything to play with, so I used to just, sit around and throw sand everywhere. And on my 3rd Christmas, I just remember my uncle bought me a red sandbox thing. What are they called? Bucket and spades. That's the one. Bought me a bucket and spade. And it was red. When you filled it with sand and turned it upside down, it made a castle. And I just remember I used to play in there for hours and hours and hours. And just making sandcastles everywhere. And I used to get really, really angry if anybody knocked me down. It's just really vivid now. I just remember I could hear the cows in the field next to us and the horses. I used to sit there for absolutely hours.
I think I like the sort of range of emotion in people's voices, like, when they were talking about stories like yours. Obviously it's kind of a bit of like nostalgia thing, and then there's a bit of humour and evilness.
Oh God, Ralph.
Yeah?
Just avoid some of the gore if you can.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, yes. Sit there in my green mark, which was a duck. And I used to have the frog green wellies. Anyone have those? Frog wellies with your eyes on? Yeah, just sit in there. Yeah, they're brilliant.
I liked being able to use a variety of different colours.
About 12, we were in Safeway doing our weekly shop, when Safeway was still a thing. So we were in Safeway doing our weekly shop for the weekend, and it got quite full towards the end of the shop, and my sister, who was younger than me, she was about 5 at the time, was rocking on the side of the trolley. And whilst my mother was preoccupied picking something else up, my sister rocked the trolley a tad too hard and became stuck underneath the trolley as it toppled on top of her. And the best part was a large milk bottle burst and was slowly leaking towards her as she tried to push the trolley off her, and then the milk just kept getting closer and closer until it started soaking her top, at which point I was just laughing and laughing. My mum, having gone round the corner, hadn't noticed that Helen was currently trapped underneath the trolley, and then when she came back around the corner, she obviously thought I had pushed the trolley on top of Helen, which is completely not true. It was her own stupid fault. But then, after a few days, Helen did admit that she was rocking the trolley, and I was no longer in trouble.
there a lot of food in the trolley?
There was. That's why it was quite heavy. And then my chubby little sister added weight over the side of the trolley, tipped it on her.
She's stuck in the little bit where you put your legs.
Yeah, she was like, half her little body was sticking out the top and her legs were sticking up in the air in between the basket and the wheel bit.
So we had literally the rest of the first half of the whole the same amount of time. There was no way we were leaving before Friday.
Then we had to buy her a new top as well because hers was soaked with milk.
Sunday omnibus.
Yeah, it was like you had the one day, then you had the half-hour gap, and then you had the next episode. So my mum did actually concede that she recorded the second episode. Was able to go earlier. That was only because I started moving up and seeing these.
Dry, just on how you want it.
Yeah, no, mum's just not a very good
Like how people visualise something that you've seen in your mind as well. It's different how you've explained it, but actually some of them are pretty spot on.
With my mum, and my mum was doing hoovering. She just started doing it, and like just switched the hoover on, and I was really scared of the noise that it made. So I tried to run away from the hoover, and I ran straight into the door frame and cut my head open. Yeah, so there's lots of blood coming out of my head. It wasn't particularly attractive. And my mum rang my dad, or called for him, and my dad had to drive me to hospital. I got my head glued back together again. And as a kid, I was really angry that they didn't call an ambulance because I really wanted to ride in an ambulance.
So the different motions was kind of cool. The whole having to draw, I could have done with that. So yeah.
Oh god, that.
Oh, yeah?
Just avoid some of the calls if you can.
No, I wasn't.
My hair looks like your mum's murdered you then.